Wow, these sure are some nice stars. Whoa, what's that? Is that a 3DS? No, wait. It's a shooting star.
Whoa, a shooting star. Hey, Voyan, what are you gonna wish for?
我想要不少1万订阅J。
In 2011, Nintendo came out with an extremely overpriced cerulean gloss brick that would forever change my life by exposing me to games. Games that were so good, I just had to share my feelings about them. That same year, I would go on a website called YouTube and upload my very first video, which you can no longer watch, and the journey has continued ever since, but we just hit 50,000 subscribers, and that is just honestly really cool, guys. Today, I wanted to both pay homage and celebrate with that console that is so near and dear to my heart, the 3DS, by ranking all the games that I've played for it, which happens to be, coincidentally, about 50, although it's actually like, well, whose celebration is it really? Top 54 3DS games, aka ranking every 3DS game that I've ever played, aka 50K sub special, aka Cajun Shrimp Eggs Benedict.
Paper Mario Sticker Star.
Awful, absolutely terrible, known causer of depression and impotence. A lot of people seem to think the downfall of Paper Mario began with Super Paper Mario. No, because that's a great game, just less of an RPG. Sticker Star, however, was the beginning of an absolute brain-dead Miyamoto Tanabe philosophy. No partners, no story, no experience, no point. All of that witty and funny dialogue, those heartfelt, endearing moments, you gave it up for stickers? For battles that don't reward you with experience but punish you because they use your consumable attacks? It's better to just run away. Yep, that about sums it up. Haha, Catriel Layton. For many of you, this will not be shocking, but this is the entry that us Professor Layton fans do not talk about. It's got very flat characters, boring to guessable mysteries, puzzles so easy Andrew could solve them. I am so mean to him. You know what's crazier than the Professor Layton series actually having a game on the Switch? It being this one. Like, it's weird because before the new game was revealed, Professor Layton was treated like a dead franchise, even though it existed concurrently with Nintendo's newest console. That would be like if Metal Gear Solid was on the 3DS.
You're not the boss, are you?
Let me fill you in on some Metal Gear lore. Up until the PS1, the franchise was very loyal to Nintendo, but then Metal Gear Solid came out, took the culture by storm, and exclusively on the PlayStation, where the series would predominantly stay for a long time. And ever since then, every time Nintendo gets a port of a Metal Gear Solid game, there is something drastically wrong with it. And this is the case as recent as last year, but when it comes to Metal Gear Solid 3D, a remake of Snake Eater made just for the 3DS, the frame rate is totally This is my favorite in the series. It was the only way to play it portably at the time, and it has a ton of bonuses, so it's really sad, but Konami gonna Konami.
This isn't America.
Steel Diver plays like a mobile game with the length of an extended demo. I bought this game in 2012, I think, for like $9 plus shipping on eBay, just because I wanted to try out a new 3DS game. But it's very content light. Not only is it a short game, the gameplay itself is really slow, and you're mostly just adjusting dials and stuff. I don't know, but Mario Sports Superstars, that happened. Man, this game could have been an awesome way to pack in the gameplay of Mario Sports best entries. Instead, it's a Mario Party minigame sample platter that's so bare bones unless you like horses, and I'm sorry, but I'm just not a horse girl, dude. Mario Tennis is my personal Mario Sports baby, and Mario Tennis Open was the opening of the downfall of these games. It's not all that bad, just kinda underwhelming for being the first game back after the series skipped the DS and cheaped out on the Wii. Now, for the record, I have dabbled in the 2 Mario Party games on the 3DS, not really enough to include them on this list. From the little bits I played, I wasn't crazy about them. Oh, but that's just nostalgia bait. I'll take it. It is actually hilarious that they released this on the 3DS when the Switch had been out for close to a year, because we all knew it was just gonna be a blueprint. But then they chose wild-ass minigames and made the decision to include 1 board? Hey, did someone say board? I feel like this might be the one time I'm not executed for my Pokemon opinion. This is the most recent 3DS game I have completed. Like last week, I got it for free on my console with a promotion that happened 10 years ago, okay? 10 years. It took me 10 years to beat this game because it's so slow and so easy. And yes, while I can even appreciate the 3D aspects it brought to the series today, who was he? What did he do? Why is he here 10 minutes before the ending? Does he know? Cause I sure as don't. Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer is the game that kinda is responsible for where we are today in the series. Decorating was always a fun little side piece to the games, at least for me, but some people see Animal Crossing as purely sandbox, and so Nintendo made the perfect game for them. It's okay, I just find it boring after like 2 houses and definitely not worth the $50 bundle. At 45, Metroid Prime Federation Force, the only first-person shooter you'll see on this list, and it's mostly hated for the political environment it was released into.
Super Street Fighter 4!
You ever be like living in 2011 and you think, I'm gonna get the 3DS day one, and these are your options? This was my launch game. This was the game I bought with my 3DS. And it was also the last game I bought for my 3DS before the eShop closed. Isn't that so poetic? I mean, yeah, I'm no Merriam-Webster, but that is definitely Street Fighter 4 running on a handheld. You sold me, Nintendo. But I could never get used to the controls, and I always got wrecked in matches, so New Super Mario Bros. 2. I can't complain about a 2D Mario game, they're timeless, but this is the most frail experience that Nintendo tried to thicken with grinding coins.
And this time around, it's all about the coin. Discover all new ways to collect coins. Do you have what it takes to collect 1 million coins?
Yeah, I probably could, but why should I? Gee, that was so worth it. Number 42, Yoshi's New Island. People give this game a lot of flack for its soundtrack. I think the kazoo player was probably paid too much, yeah, but if you are a bossa enjoyer like moi, I think it's great. The art style is also very amazing. I might have further thoughts on this game that I would save for a video, but until then, Persona Q. Persona Q is the most Atlas thing ever, which is taking an Etrian Odyssey game and dipping it in a Persona paint for sales. Despite the one-dimensional characters and plot, if you're a fan of dungeon crawling, then this is a good time, but probably my least favorite Mega 10 experience on 3DS. The first Kirby to land on 3DS, and it's as classic as it gets. Kirby Triple Deluxe, in my opinion, actually might be too classic. I mean, people were making fun of Yoshi's New Island and New Super Mario Bros. 2 for being more of the same, but this is literally just another Kirby game where he sucks bigger, and that's like the whole gimmick to this entry. I do like this game, but I sometimes don't understand why people act like it's towards the top of the series. Or like with Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask. First Layton game on the 3DS, and that means 3D models. The game known for its art and hand-drawn environments turns into...
Very strange.
Another game that will eventually have its own video. It's fun. My beef with this entry is almost entirely plot and aesthetic related. It's my least favorite real Professor Layton game, but it's still, you know, Yokai Watch. Okay, fine, Yokai Watch. Good for you, Yokai Watch. Nintendogs plus Cats. We did a video about this one. It just kind of came out in a dying era at full price, plus made some questionable switch-ups from the first series. For what's there, it's really neat and has wonderful music. At 36, Mario Golf World Tour. From what I've played, this was the best Mario Golf game because the mechanics were so easily explained. It's literally got a simple playstyle for idiots like me, and the fucking DLC is like an entirely brand new game for 15 bucks. Definitely deserves more of a shout. Back a couple months ago, I asked you guys on Twitter, what's your favorite 3DS game? And a lot of you said, the game that is also my favorite. It's rather obvious if you've been here. But then a lot of you also said, Tomodachi Life. Twice now I've tried to play this game. The first time I tried to binge it and found myself bored in repetitive tasks that felt more like work. The second time I played it in smaller sessions, checking in 1 to 2 times daily, and that was much better. Pairing up the Miis, watching them do their silly sitcom antics, or decorating them. Plus, I haven't even gotten to do the multiplayer yet, cause nobody plays their 3DS anymore, and there's only 2 months left. Although I will say, once you see everything this game has to offer, which is a lot, I definitely understand why people would want a sequel. So get on that, Nintendo. Where's our Tomodachi Life? Zero Time Dilemma is the finale of the Zero Escape series, and in my opinion, the weakest of the bunch. I feel for what's given in graphics and presentation, we lose the quirks and atmosphere with the narrative-backed style of the first two, but I still love it. And speaking of heavily novelized games, Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. I think this is the first 3DS game I ever saw a trailer for, and it led me to the Layton series. I owe it big time. The game itself is nice. The mechanics of both series are a bit watered down in order to accommodate anyone unfamiliar with either, but it's got a great story that lasts for a good long while. Who knows, we might even give this one its own video too. Gosh, shit's piling up, dog. When I was listing off my 3DS games, I decided to throw these in originally as separate games, but then I ranked them all back to back, and you know, you can kind of look at them as one game, so I'm gonna conglomerate them. It's Fire Emblem Fates, the highly anticipated follow-up to Awakening, and given the success of that game, this is where the new mechanics really became exaggerated. The protagonist was worshipped, the marriage options were questionable, and they had all this stuff that made Fire Emblem feel less like Fire Emblem, including the slippery-ass plot. But Fates also did a lot of cool things, like the castle stuff and multiplayer, ditching weapon durability and allowing any gender to be any class. I think Conquest is probably the optimal Fates experience if you only want to choose one, simply because it's not cake easy, but don't get me wrong, it's a great trio of games all around. And this is a great game for a good trio of gamers. Kinda weird to think that Triforce Heroes was the last multiplayer Zelda experience because it was a lot of fun dressing up Link and running missions with your friends. You'd think it would create a bigger void from being missed, but as of right now, no co-op mainline Zelda on the Switch. Nobody tell Nintendo that this exists, even though they already know. OMG, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Freshly in the hands of Canadian developer Next Level Games, I was skeptical. There definitely was a shifting personality between this and the first game, but I played the hell out of Dark Moon, and the only thing I enjoyed more than the single player was the Scare-Scraper multiplayer. It's the best co-op in the series, and I cannot wait to get back to it on the Switch. 27, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS. Oh, I could not put this game down for like 6 weeks. Smash 3DS was the first taste of Smash 4, and I think Nintendo was smart to debut it on the 3DS since it had a bigger install base, and when the Wii U version launched, it would probably take a good portion of that audience permanently, a la me. And even though Smash Run makes Smash 3DS invaluable, it sucks they kept it on the 3DS since it's better designed for one player and stuck that stupid party mode with the Wii U version because the 3DS is just not ideal controls for this type of game. We can only hope that it gets ported one day, although that is a peculiar as fuck wish. Xenoblade Chronicles 3D is how I originally beat the first game, and although it's the ugliest looking edition, I really appreciate any time a massive JRPG is made more approachable by being able to be taken on the go. Shut up, that was 5 years in the future. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga never had that problem. It was already on the Game Boy Advance and about a fourth of the total playtime, so it's not like it really needed a remake, but its 3DS update was a lot of fun, even if they made the brutal final boss a little bit easier. I'm a little bit of a difficulty sap, so I don't love when re-releases dial down the original. I mean, I guess except for that one. Boy, we've been talking about a lot of 3DS ports, and that ain't stopping here. It's Luigi's Mansion 1. The 3DS games of 2018 and 2019 just make me depressed because the Switch took away so much of their spotlight, and this is a really good version of the game that adds full co-op with boss rush. Dropping at number 22, Fire Emblem Awakening. When a game series rips out its own life support and says, I can't die here, I need to get pregnant. And that, kids, is how the Fire Emblem series saved itself. Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy, the finale of the professor himself, until it wasn't. Although as the finale of Akira Tago's work on these games, it very clearly is the last of that original oh-so-magical formula. And I will say that of all the games, this one feels least like Layton, which looking back may have been a sign that the team was ready to start trying out new things, but it doesn't make what happens here any less heartbreaking. Or puzzling. Yeah, Ocarina of Time 3D is a good game. Not my first 3DS game, but the first 3DS game I liked and actually beat. Plus, it's got Master Quest with it. At 19, Devil's Survivor 2. I think this is the last game I played for the DS on an actual DS, and I was pretty ecstatic when they brought it over to the 3DS with, you know, typical Atlas formula. Plus chapter, plus woman, not plus one. Oh, For the people who enjoy the difficult and monster-catching mechanics of SMT, but love the strategy of Fire Emblem and sim mechanics of Persona, you really can't go wrong with this one. Oh, man. Oh, man. No way that near 25 years later, they're gonna somehow continue to make side-scrolling Kirby still exciting, right? Wrong. F you. What a wonderful 2D platformer. So much to fall in love with. The new abilities, the machine-infected levels, the mech's ability to switch up the gameplay, the plot's ability to make longtime fans of the series scream their head off before weeping at the ending. There is no better Kirby game for the 3DS, and I strongly hope that this one gets a chance post-3DS. There's a lot of reasons Fire Emblem Echoes is my favorite Fire Emblem for the console. I love the story, the characters, one of the few games to not shy away from a canon romance. I liked actually being able to move around in the dungeon segments, and it's also got a very solid difficulty curve, but if you want to make it easier, it introduces the ability to just rewind time so no one can bitch. As a remake of an NES game, it's quite amazing that they could make it so faithful, but also bring it up to today's standards with what we've come to expect from the Fire Emblem series. Mario Kart 7, okay, so we just had that video about how Mario 3D Land did a ton for both the series and the failing console it launched on, but today is largely neglected by fandoms and media as it became a stepping stone for a much more successful console title later on. You could almost apply that exact same logic to Mario Kart 7, which is heavily discarded in a post-8 world, but is responsible for so much of the evolution we see in that game. It deserves to be respected.
Number 15.
WarioWare Gold. It does not get more miserable than this when the once in a console WarioWare was a compilation of 300, okay? 300 of the series' best micro games. Nobody bought this and it's genuinely so sad because after years of gimmicks, it felt like the first good WarioWare since DIY almost a decade prior. Like if you're looking for a fun, short comedic game, I cannot recommend this enough, but it doesn't matter. I can't even get my brother to play it.
And super cool like Wario.
Cool? Wario?
Yeah, he's my fashion icon. I love him. And that stash.
Stash? Why?
Uh-oh. It's starting. Strange Journey is really cool. Fun fact about the original, that shit was so hard that I used an action replay to try and beat the final boss, and I still couldn't do it. Had I finally found the game that was too hard for me? Well, at least this version of it is more balanced. Not as balanced as Mario 3D Land. What more can I say? Not a sandbox 3D Mario doesn't mean not a 3D Mario. It is still platforming excellence. At 12, we got Tales of the Abyss 3D. I'm actually a huge sucker for this series, but this might be the first time I've ever brought that up on the channel. Abyss was originally a PS2 game brought to the 3DS, and once again, I'm like 5 times as likely to beat a big JRPG if I can take it on the go. I didn't play the original, so I can't compare it, but from what the 3DS experience offered me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've never changed my mind faster on a group of characters than with this game. Lots of depth. Majora's Mask 3D. Ooh, my favorite Zelda game. You know I had to campaign on the front lines of Miiverse for this. And the results? I was happy with it. Some recent complaints state that this game is significantly easier. It does have some really weird changes that keep the original from going obsolete. As a remake of a game that's found its way onto literally every single home console since it came out, I actually don't mind its reimagined aspects. It's a super replayable game too, so my advice would always just be play both. Experience it from 2000, experience it from 2015. I didn't really expect that I would need to give a monologue in the middle of my top 50 3DS games list, but it was just actually announced today. The Citra emulator, which is the emulator for 3DS, and it's how I've gotten a lot of the footage that you've seen so far, is being discontinued as part of the ongoing legal battle between Nintendo and the Yuzu devs. And that sucks for Yuzu, you know, for the Switch emulator, but for the 3DS, which was the eShop was sent offline last year, and next month they're going to take away the multiplayer. This really sucks, and thankfully I'm able to complete the video because I think I've downloaded all the ROMs I needed and everything. This sucks. There's no real like message here. There's no call to action, and I guess just the message is that preserving video games sucks. And it's weird that the company that makes them is somehow making it harder. Closing in on number 10. Oh, we are getting up there with the big boys, and that is Ace Attorney 5 Dual Destinies. Bro, Phoenix Wright returning not just to the main role, but on the 3DS was so hype and rated M for mature? Plus, Athena, she's a new character and kind of fun. Yeah, okay, I like Spirit of Justice a little bit better. It's more consistent, more fitting to close out the trilogy, and the plot twists hit the brain just right. A small part of me was nervous, as with any series that starts to get up to this amount of sequels, and especially ones that keep the same formula so tightly intact, that Capcom would be running out of ideas. How many more times can we have 4 to 5 seemingly disconnected cases actually be part of a bigger plot, or make the abrasive prosecutor turn out to be suddenly a good or sympathetic person? But if anything, Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice prove that there's still so much more growth, so many new characters and twists that can serve to take everything we know and turn it inside out. Devil Survivor Overclocked, an enhanced port of the first Devil Survivor, which was the first Megaten I ever played. It's the reason I got into the series, and therefore the equivalent of a tragic accident. Overclocked might just be my favorite strategy RPG probably ever, but definitely on the 3DS, and one of the few Megaten games that I feel so accurately depicts the societal breakdown of the demon invasion. Lots of Megaten games either put you someplace where it's been happening for a bit, or just glosses right over it, but trying to navigate the lockdown with your friends while simultaneously keeping them happy and alive, and then squaring off in that good old-fashioned cubic combat, hitting the gritty, as the youngsters say. At number 7, ooh, this one. I cannot declare my love hard enough for Kid Icarus Uprising. The last non-Smash game Sakurai made over a decade ago, and it is everything. Funny plot that has serious moments, lengthy single-player campaign, but so much side content, including a checklist, my favorite part of Sakurai's games, even online multiplayer. And I'm not normally one for the on-rails shooter, ground action, whatever, but being able to customize the difficulty and weapon type makes exploring it as a genre a lot more interesting. This is one of the best 3DS games, filled with Nintendo charm, and I think anyone who's played something like a Kirby Air Ride or Smash Bros. Brawl should check this out. The DNA will grip you. I just wish Nintendo would recognize that and bring it to new systems, especially considering how expensive it's gotten. Quality ain't cheap. Number 6, Virtue's Last Reward is my favorite visual novel type experience on the 3DS. When I played the first game, 999, I was like, okay, that's fun, but a little too much reading and sciencey concepts. Can we get back to Danganronpa now? I didn't expect that I would wolf down the sequel in 48 hours. I couldn't drop it. I wanted to see every possible ending and outcome, since this game had the meaty workout of tying it all together. And because the addition of the flowchart that allows you to instantly skip where a decision branches the story off, it was so much easier to consume and comprehend. The excellent writing, the strong atmosphere, and of course, the many secrets of the 9 characters make this an unforgettable gem, and the best from Uchi. Holy, and I mean this wholeheartedly, Metroid Samus returns, and she absolutely f***ing does, with the first good and actual Metroid game in 10 years. Just when it seemed like the 3DS would cement itself as home of the most hated Metroid game, boom, a remake of Metroid 2 comes post-Switch and brings the average up much higher. We're talking that fast platforming action, that good parry attack that I guess is actually a bit more controversial than I anticipated. Plus new scenes including a boss battle with Ridley. Yeah, I know. But in a year defined by Nintendo pushing the boundaries of their main series forward, there's no greater comfort than some of their other series returning to where they were always best. 2 dimensions. Kind of. Speaking of that, the top 50 3DS games, and so far 2 of the top 5 are in 2D. That's kind of funny, right guys? A Link Between Worlds, similar to Metroid Samus Returns, was the first new 2D Zelda in close to a decade, unless you count the DS titles, because some people do. And as a sequel slash spiritual successor slash actual successor to A Link to the Past, it had heavy expectations that it would knock out of the park. Yeah, you could go in the walls and mark off the dungeons in any order, rent whatever item you wanted, you could gawk about the return of the double world mechanic. But as the first and only real new Zelda experience for the 3DS, for me, it's always been the depth. Demonstrating how the 3D could advance a top-down perspective makes this even today stand out so much, and of course, give the console its flowers. It also doesn't take itself as anything less than a sequel to A Link to the Past, and what I mean by that is that the plot is serious and significant. The political vibes are off, the characters are whack. Goth Zelda? When I sat down to start writing what was supposed to be a tiny little excerpt in a list about 3DS games, I got to Shin Megami Tensei 4 and wrote a damn book. There's so much to cover with this game, so it's not a question of if it gets a separate video, just when. But let me say for general audiences that if you like RPGs, you should probably check out Shin Megami Tensei. It's got a new game coming to the Switch that I don't know if it's good, obviously it hasn't come out yet. But if you want to experience peak, Shin Megami Tensei 4 is the way to go. It is masterfully crafted in just about every way, the battles especially, coming off that note from the beginning of the video about another 3DS RPG that I found to be too slow and easy. This is the complete antithesis. Everything is fast, no time is wasted with pointless messages, your enemies feel like more than enemies because they have the potential to be. And obviously the heavy amounts of customization that you can sink into Demon Fusion to create something just the way you like. I mean, that's like the most holy aspect of Mega 10, and I feel like I want to make a video on this so bad that I could go on, but we're in a top 10 right now, so the music is playing and I gotta exit the stage. Everything else is super neat too. The clueless main characters in a post-apocalyptic Tokyo, heavy synth music that feels like the 80s, the story, I think there's something in there about some samurai. It's a whole goddamn aesthetic, and Atlus knew they had made it big with Shin Megami Tensei 4, and that they had to run it back, so 3 years later it was Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, which rewrites a little bit of the ending but mostly serves as a sequel with new characters. I like this one a little bit less. Gotcha. Apocalypse is the Mario Galaxy 2 of sequel, or the Tears of the Kingdom, because it's probably about time that I update that metaphor. More game, more quality of life, and polished systems, but I give it to SMT4 for taking the bigger step, bringing us the world for the first time, and especially coming out in such a busy year. Because 2013 had this, it had this, and it even had my favorite game for the Nintendo 3DS. When the 3DS first came out, it wasn't doing too hot, but after a year it took some steps and gradually rose into the prominence Nintendo had always wanted for it. In a lot of ways, Animal Crossing New Leaf mirrored this, but only the fun part. After City Folk had brought with it complaints of repetition, New Leaf was built to show that Nintendo still had it. It took such a massive step from City Folk, not just in the amount of new activities or items or music it included, but in terms of involvement. Being the mayor meant approaching the forest town like never before, finally giving the player the chance to make decisions for the community around them with personalization. Not too much as to make the NPCs feel like yes dolls, and not too much as to distort the sense of progression. It's a careful line that New Leaf walks, because above all else, it was important that the immersion be preserved. Understand that I've spoken so many times about this game on the channel, so I know it's not surprising to see it at number 1, but what you may not know is that behind those videos are hours upon hours of revisions. New Leaf is a game that exceeds words. It's just solid raw emotion, and only an emotion you get when you're playing. It is anything but another Animal Crossing game, and as far as we're concerned here, the best for the 3DS. Thank you so much for watching this. Now, if there's a game you didn't see on today's list, it's almost certainly because I haven't played it yet. That one, definitely that one. Because one of the best things about the 3DS is how packed to the brim it is with games that are completely worth your time. I was lucky to have experienced 54, but I'm far from finished, so thank you guys for 50,000 subscribers, and maybe if you stick around for 100,000, I'll see you for the top 100 or 108 or whatever.